Let's start. The air inside the grand oak library was thick with the scent of aged parchment and polished mahogany. Soft golden light spilled across the floor from a chandelier that gently swayed above, disturbed only by the rhythm of Kaoru Hashizuki's careful footsteps. The quiet hum of a distant air vent was the only sound in the empty building. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. Kaoru adjusted his glasses and glanced at the clock. 11:07 p.m. The library technically closed at 10, but tonight he'd gotten lost in archiving an unusual donation. A single, unmarked leather-bound book discovered in the city's oldest church basement. Its cover was smooth, yet pulsing faintly with warmth, like a heartbeat. It had no title, no author, just a golden spiral pressed into the front. "What are you?" Kaoru whispered, tracing the spiral with his index finger. A strange breeze rustled the pages before he could open it, but the windows were shut. The lights flickered, and a low hum began to echo from the spine of the book. Kaoru's vision blurred. He tried to stand, but the floor buckled beneath him. The spiral glowed brighter. Then, the room collapsed into silence. And then nothingness. When Kaoru opened his eyes, the sky above him was a hue he had never seen before. An impossible gradient of twilight blue laced with soft lilac and pink. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and something sweeter, like honey and dew. He blinked slowly, letting the world come into focus. He was lying in the middle of a vast field of silver-leaved trees, their trunks glimmering like moonstone. A soft wind rustled the branches, and the leaves chimed melodically as if singing a lullaby. "Am I dreaming?" he murmured. A soft giggle answered him. Startled, he sat up. Standing a few meters away was a girl. No, a fairy. Her wings shimmered like dragonfly silk, translucent and glowing at the edges. She was barely 3 feet tall, her hair a wild tumble of sky-blue curls. "You're awake," she chirped. The book really worked. Kaoru stared. The book. She flitted closer, hovering just above the grass. "You're Kaoru, right? Librarian of the Grand Oak Library in the human realm?" "Yes, I'm Melida. Welcome to Veltherion." She landed lightly on his shoulder and crossed her legs. "This garden, Lumina's Grove, is the resting place for dreamwalkers. You were chosen, Kaoru. The book you opened is one of the 4 arcs." He blinked again, overwhelmed. I don't understand. What is this place? Why am I here?" Elira stretched lazily and looked up at the pastel sky. Veltherion is a realm that exists between sleep and memory. Only certain souls can access it. Those who crave stillness, those who are lost, or those with a forgotten destiny. Kaoru stood, brushing off his pants. They were now white linen, embroidered with gold. His shirt was a soft tunic, and a satchel hung from his shoulder. "I didn't put this on," he whispered. "The realm dresses you," Elira explained. "Don't worry, it knows what you need." Just then, a low rumble echoed across the horizon. The clouds parted to reveal a floating island high above, its underside glowing with blue veins of light. Dozens of birds, long, Serpentine creatures with feathered wings circled it. Kaoru stared in awe. That's incredible. Alira beamed. That's Etherspire, the capital. We'll go there eventually. But first, we need to visit the Elder Tree. It's been waiting for you. The walk to Whisperbark Village took the better part of the afternoon, though Kaoru hardly noticed the time. The path curved gently through hills blanketed in soft moss and towering mushroom trees. Tiny glowing orbs bobbed alongside them, willow wisps that giggled whenever Kaoru stumbled over a root. Alira floated beside him. Munching on a plum-colored berry, she plucked midair. We're close now. Whisperbark's peaceful. You'll like it. As they rounded a bend, the trees parted to reveal a cozy village nestled in a wooded hollow. Homes shaped like hollowed-out stumps and woven straw domes sat beneath the arching branches of enormous whisperbark trees. Their bark was etched with glowing runes, and their leaves whispered secrets whenever the wind passed through. Children, some human-like, others with fox ears or bird feathers, chased each other across the cobblestone paths. Lanterns floated gently above the streets, casting a warm golden glow. The scent of cinnamon bread and burning pine drifted from a nearby bakery. Kaoru smiled for the first time in what felt like weeks. Kaoru, a deep, rumbling voice called. He turned to see a creature waddling toward him, a great, bearded owl the size of a man, wearing a vest and tiny spectacles. Its feathers were speckled gray, and its amber eyes twinkled with recognition. You've arrived at last, it said. I am Professor Othello, head of the Owl Council. We must speak. Kaoru bowed awkwardly. An owl professor? Indeed, Othello said, chuckling. Gulme, the others are waiting. The council chamber was carved inside the trunk of the largest whisperbark tree. It was circular, lined with shelves of ancient scrolls and a domed skylight overhead. 5 owls, each with distinct feather patterns and robes of deep sapphire or forest green, sat on high perches around a stone table. Othello gestured for Kaoru to sit. Kaoru Hashizuki, said a snowy white owl named Lysandra, her voice crisp. Bearer of the Ark of Whispers, do you know why you were brought to Veltherion? Kaoru shook his head. Othello spoke softly. The world is beginning to forget itself. Dreams fade, magic stales, and the Elder Tree sleeps longer each year. The 4 arcs were created to awaken it when the realm begins to dim. And I hold one of them? Kaoru asked. Alira, sitting on his shoulder, nodded. Yup. The Ark of Whispers chose you. Lysandra fluttered her wings. You must travel to the other corners of Veltherion. Find the remaining 3 Ark-bearers. Only together can the Elder Tree be awakened. Kaoru's heart pounded. But I'm just a librarian. You are more than that, Othello said gently. You are a keeper of stories. And here, stories are the root of reality. Kaoru's boots sank softly into dew-covered grass as he stepped out of Whisperbark Village at dawn. Alira hovered beside him, munching on a dried honey fruit. In the distance, the sky glowed with golden light, and ahead, a winding river shimmered under morning mist. That's the River of Forgotten Names, Alira said. It runs across Veltherion's spine. Old, dangerous magic lives in those waters. They reached the riverbank just before midday. The water moved slowly, yet its surface shifted like living silver. Symbols floated atop it, glyphs, names, words in countless languages, before dissolving and vanishing. Kaoru knelt down, staring at his reflection. It wasn't quite right. His features blurred like a half-finished painting. "Don't stare too long," Elira warned. "This river eats what you are piece by piece." Just then, a low voice called from the fog. Looking for passage, a narrow wooden boat emerged from the mist, rowed by a tall, hunched man cloaked in dark blue. His face was hidden beneath a hood, but his hands were thin, silver-veined, and steady on the oars. "I ferry travelers to the nameless shore," he said. "Payment is a memory." Kaoru frowned. "A memory?" The man nodded. "A single one. Doesn't matter what." Kaoru hesitated. Then he closed his eyes and whispered, "The scent of my mother's tea on winter mornings." The boatman reached out, touched Kaoru's forehead gently, and nodded. "Paid." They crossed in silence. The river whispered in Kaoru's ears, calling his name over and over. But each time he turned to look, it wasn't his name at all. At last, the mist thinned, revealing a small island dotted with ruins and overgrown vines. There, sitting beneath a cherry blossom tree, was a girl in a pale cloak. Her eyes were clouded silver, and her hair spilled like ink down her back. "Kaoru," she said softly, as though remembering him from a dream. "You've come. You know me?" She smiled. "I remember everyone except myself." Her name was Eira. The river had taken it from her long ago, but it left behind everything else. She knew people before they arrived, recalled lives not her own, and she held a second arc, carved of ivory and set with an emerald. Eira pressed it into Kaoru's hands. "I cannot leave until I remember who I am. But this was meant for you." Eira's touch lingered in Kaoru's mind as he and Elira crossed the wild dunes of Arellan, a desert made of stardust and old dreams. At night, the sand glittered with blue light. Strange machines slumbered half-buried beneath dunes. Broken automatons, rusted spires, and gears larger than wagons. In the heart of the wasteland stood Halcyon Spire, an abandoned clock tower surrounded by floating islands of shattered glass. The wind hummed like ticking clocks. Inside the spire lived a young man of bronze and velvet, with hands that ticked and a voice like music. He wore a broken crown and a curious smile. "I've been waiting," he said when Kaoru arrived. His name was Lucian, the Clockmaker Prince. Born from a king's dying wish, he was not entirely human. Time lived inside him, coiled and trembling. And in his chest, pulsing faintly, was the third arc, the heart of echoes. "I'm tired," Lucian admitted, sitting at the spire's edge, his feet swinging above the stars. "I hold too many moments that aren't mine. Will you carry some of them for me?" Kaoru knelt and took his hand. "We can carry them together." The arc pulsed between them, warm and alive. And for a moment, the broken clocks across the land ticked in harmony again. The final arc lay high above the clouds, in Erythia, a floating garden of crystalline flowers and levitating lakes. The path there was guarded by wind spirits and bridges made of woven feathers. Kaoru, Elira, and Lucian rowed a wind sloop, a sky vessel of glass and light, up into the mists. There, they found the garden in silence. Not a single bird sang. The air was heavy with hush. At its center was a throne of vines, and upon it sat a woman with eyes of opal and a voice sealed by a spell. The songless queen. Her lips moved, but no sound came. She gave up her voice to protect the Ark, Elira whispered. A deal with the void. Kaoru stepped forward. We've come to wake the elder tree. Will you give us the last Ark? The queen stared at him, her fingers brushing the final arc, silver, shaped like a flute. Her gaze fell to Lucian, then to the sky, then back to Kaoru. Without words, she lifted the flute and handed it to him. And as Kaoru took it, he heard her voice, just once, in his mind. Sing me home. The four arcs pulsed in harmony. Kaoru, Elira, Lucian, and Aira, now walking beside them, her memories returning bit by bit, arrived at the base of the elder tree, whose roots spread across continents and whose trunk disappeared in the clouds. The land had grown still. Villages quieted. The sky dimmed. Magic slept. Kaoru stood before the bark and pressed each arc into its waiting slot. Ivory, bronze, silver, leather. The tree shuddered. Light flowed from its branches. Roots glowed beneath the earth. The skies brightened. The song of Veltherion returned. And Kaoru closed his eyes, exhausted and calm. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the library. The book lay closed beside him. Dusty, harmless, but something was different. His satchel, still on his shoulder, was filled with silver leaves, a glass gear, and a parchment note. You're welcome back anytime. Elira. Kaoru smiled. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. The world felt softer now, and for the first time in years, he truly rested. After the elder tree awakened and harmony returned to Veltherion, Kaoru remained in the world for a while longer, exploring hidden corners and forgotten places. One quiet morning, Elira took him to her home, a secret meadow tucked between twilight and dawn. The air shimmered with magic. Flowers changed color with each step, and dragonflies buzzed softly above glowing pools. A large mushroom served as Elira's house, complete with a chimney that puffed out heart-shaped clouds. This is where I was born, Elira said, settling into a petal hammock. All fairies are born from dew and dreams, but I was the only one who stayed behind when the weave shifted. The weave? Kaoru asked, kneeling beside a pool where fish leapt without splashes. It's the pattern of this world, the threads of what is, was, and might be. Most fairies drift with it. I chose to stay because, she paused, because I heard your name in the wind. Kaoru felt a warmth in his chest. You knew me before we met? I dreamed you a long time ago. They stayed in the meadow until moonlight fell like petals, and Kaoru drifted to sleep with Elira's soft singing in his ears. Lucian invited Kaoru to the heart of Halcyon Spire, its hidden basement, where time itself pooled in glowing orbs stored in glass jars. The air was thick with ticking and whispers. Each jar held a moment someone wished to forget. "I collect them," Lucian said, "so they don't disappear." He handed Kaoru one. Inside, Kaoru saw himself, alone in the library, watching snow fall outside the window. The silence felt heavy, like something missing. "You gave me this moment when you arrived," Lucian said softly. "And now you can take it back." Kaoru nodded and pressed the jar to his chest. The cold vanished. The memory warmed. Lucian smiled. "You're healing." They spent hours rebuilding a broken automaton girl named Mira, who'd waited centuries to sing again. As she awoke, she wept tears of starlight. Now that her name had returned, Era spent her time cultivating a garden where forgotten names bloomed into flowers. Each flower whispered its name softly: Kellen, Mayora, Tamsin, Arwol. Kaoru wandered through the garden, trailing his fingers along the petals. Era walked beside him, her cloak gone, her eyes clear and full of joy. "People come here when they've lost something," she explained. "The garden helps them remember." A young boy entered, clutching a wooden toy. He looked scared. Aaron knelt, plucked a glowing violet, and placed it in his hand. He smiled. "Manga." Kaoru watched silently, heart full. High in the skyborn garden, the songless queen finally sang. Her voice wove through the clouds like a golden river, drawing birds, dragons, and floating whales to the skies. Her song told stories of old kings, falling stars, and hearts stitched back together. Kaoru, Elira, Era, and Lucian gathered below the throne, eyes closed, soaking in the harmony. "She's healing the wounds the silence left," Elira whispered. The queen sang a lullaby last, a song just for Kaoru. A thank you, a goodbye. And as it faded into the wind, a single silver feather drifted down, resting on Kaoru's shoulder. Back in the Grand Oak Library, Kaoru began writing again. A new section appeared on the shelves, The Realms Beyond Sleep. Inside was a book with silver filigree, titled Whispers of Veltherion. Students, wanderers, and dreamers came to borrow it, and those who read it sometimes never came back, because the Ark still waited, and Veltherion always welcomed those who needed peace. The end. Like and subscribe for more.